The most valuable rookie cards. This is the second in a series of speculating on Derek Jeter, but we're going to be talking about Derek Jeter's post-rookie era. Last time we spoke about the pre-rookie and the rookie, and now we're going to continue his career. And there's so much information that I needed to provide this in two different YouTubes. So as we started out the last talk, we talked about, you can tell that Derek Jeter was renowned because he was constantly on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I presented several covers the last time, and now these are 10 different covers of Derek Jeter and his career. And through that career, there were interesting things that Sports Illustrated felt was valuable to enter. For example, the series between the Red Sox and the Yankees, the fact that the character of the individual Derek Jeter, good feel, good hit, good guy. There was also the Derek Jeter that was a tribute to the team, and he was a captain for 20 years, and we'll see him being accommodations for achieving that. And the whole Yankee organization in terms of the other members that made up the team that won 5 World Series during Derek Jeter's time in the major leagues, and the moment that he successfully got 3,000 hits, and it was a great accomplishment for him and for the Yankees organization. So a lot of accolades out to Derek Jeter, and we'll go into now its influence on the baseball card industry. So to look at that, we see the covers of the Sports Illustrated, but we also see him on many covers of the baseball collector's kind of Bible, which was Beckett, and he appears many times, and of course kind of paralleling those different success stories that he had in the major leagues with Sports Illustrated. He's kind of reflecting those as he becomes a kind of a figure that people look up to in the baseball field, their hero, so to speak. So let's just look first, and then we'll get into the kind of crux of really his career after his rookie year. But what this does is kind of give a full picture in terms of why he was so looked up to in the sport of baseball, the awards and achievements he did. In fact, many times he's referred to as a legend of baseball, and that is certainly culminated as he was elected into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot, and only 1 vote shy of the majority. And then his kind of claim to fame, amongst other things, was his achieving getting over 3,000 hits, and there's many cards that kind of address that and are valuable for that. But not only did he get a lot of hits, but a lot of those hits were doubles. So he got 500 doubles, which is a marker for players of that at that time and still today. He also was above Lou Gehrig in terms of hits postseason after the season that he achieved, as well as the Silver Slugger Award. And there's cards that kind of reflect that, and also the Golden Glove Award that we'll see at the bottom. And he was the MVP of the All-Star game, as well as the World Series games. He was always amongst the leaders in batting average. He, again, the Gold Glove, he was Rookie of the Year his first year in 1996. And he was retired as the captain of the Yankees after he was captain for 20 years. Going on in terms of the accolades, some cards, almost retro cards, going to reflect these accomplishments, and you can read them there. He was kind of reproduced on many record breaker cards of the classic vintage tops. He basically, as I said, won the Rookie of the Year, but also other awards like the Hank Aaron Award, the Lou Gehrig Award, the Babe Ruth Award, and within the Yankee system, he won the most games played for a Yankee. He was the led in terms of his number of games and so forth, and most hits by a Yankee player. And so many accolades in terms of just the Yankees team, as well as in the All-Star MVP in 2000. He was also the World Series MVP. And strange enough, he was never the American League most valuable player. But the card that was kind of reproduction makes it seem that way. He did win most valuable player for the World Series and All-Stars, but never for the Major League Baseball. So I find it's interesting, and just kind of maybe something that's personal, but I like when they kind of take the old cards, the old vintage cards, and then place the newer players on those cards. And the companies that do this are primarily Topps Heritage, Topps Archive, Topps Transcendent, Topps Throwback Thursday. So I kind of have collected the cards that kind of show Derek Jeter on the vintage cards, and not just in terms of Topps, but you'll see as we go through these very quickly that he was again reproduced on the Turkey Red, the classic Goody cards, Cracker Jack, as well as the cards that were 1968 of the play games by Topps. He then starts appearing in the first sets that are the 1952 famous Topps Iconic, and appears there several times. And then as years go by, you'll see he's included in almost, well, really every set. There's a card, at least one card representing Derek Jeter, going from the 1953 and then on to the 1954 top set. And then you have the 55, the 56, 57. I'm constantly coming up with new cards of the same years and adding them to the list as they are. You have the 58s and the 59, 1960, several cards from that. And one very interesting is this one down below in the middle, that he's of course a Yankee forever, and yet the card has, and it's a purposeful era where they have the Red Sox logo. And you have 61 and 62, and the second of the 62s is kind of a joke card, and there were several of these made. One was for the Boston, where it was kind of airbrushed or with that shirt, and then you have the classic 62, the 63, 64 Yankees, 65, 66, 67, 68, just one in the 69. And another card that was hard to find was the 1970 Derek Jeter card, and had two cards that basically that eventually were found with that. Moving on, we have the 71, the 72s, 73, 4, the colorful 75 cards, the 76, 77, 78, 79, and one card that was very difficult to kind of race down was the 1980 card, and of course 81, 82, several in the 83, and several in the 84. Moving on, we have the 85 Topps card, 86, several 87 cards of Derek Jeter, as well as 88 and 2 in 89. And then even in the 90s, we have a few, because remember his rookie year, and his rookie card was that 1993 Topps Derek Jeter draft pick. So that we still have the 90 and major league debut of Jeter, as well as a 91. And then also even a 92. So that's kind of the continuum of all the kind of heritage and the archives and Transcendent and Throwback Thursday cards. But within those sets, you also have the kind of additional cards like the all-star selection cards, which there are several in the sets throughout the Topps history. And you have the action cards that were, throughout, and you'll see here that includes the 72, and then you'll have that MVP card, as well as the post-game action photos that were in the sets like 62. And then you have the awards. We already kind of included or mentioned some of these already, so I won't review that, but you can see the rewards and record breakers cards and accolades there. And then the draft pick, you see there's several draft picks above and beyond the classic that is known, kind of a redoing of that classic 1992 draft pick, as well as a 2022 remake of his 1992 first year draft pick. Then we move on to his future star card. Now we move into other sets besides Topps that also kind of do a kind of retro or replica of Derek Jeter. And one of them is the kind of very iconic Bowman 1992 set where there's 2 cards of Derek Jeter, as well as a 1955 kind of TV picture card for Bowman of Derek Jeter. And now we move on to Donruss. And Donruss has an 82 kind of reproduction, as well as the classic Donruss 84, the 86, and 89 cards where they have Jeter. And going back to the Topps, we see we have the group cards, and they kind of strike a familiarity between cards that were in the vintage Topps, where you have the run preventers and the Bronx Bombers best and learning from a legend and kind of the duo. So you have Kano in these pictures, as well as Alex Rodriguez. And then you have friendly foes where they kind of include Mike Trout. The core 4, like I said, was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, the key foundation for the Yankees when they were winning in the 98, 99, and 2000. Topps All-Stars, where you have Mariano Rivera and Derek Jeter, both of whom made the Hall of Fame. Other kind of famous cards that were in the top sets, as well as now we see a starting lineup where it has him getting recognition for his 3,000 hits. And then they even put him on cards that were vintage football and vintage hockey and vintage basketball. Some of the insert sticker cards and the big cards, pretty hard to find a card that's not available on Derek Jeter. If you look far enough and hard enough, they'll be available. And again, they do carry some value because the numbers are not that great, and sometimes they're hard to find, but kind of nice to make a collection just of those. So then we go to another set, and that is the Upper Deck Vintage. And you can see they're not as great a reproduction as we see in the other cards that we've shown for Topps, but still it's obvious that they're taking from the core design of those cards, as we see the Goody cards, and we also see the Topps Vintage cards of 63 and 65, as well as 71, and then some other cards that kind of reflect cards that were in that particular time with Topps. And finally, we have the Fleer Tradition Retro, not as good as some of the other reproductions, but they're going to go even into their own card, which is the Fleer. And you see you have the 1960 and the 1963, as well as the Lou Gehrig card and the big cards and so forth. And then they begin to try to replicate some of the Topps designs in those cards. So now we move into what else is available in this post rookie era that maybe not that valuable, but are interesting cards to collect and curiosity. So it's my own kind of collection of cards that I think are just interesting and kind of neat to look at and show other people. So you'll see them above. I won't go into all of them, but a lot of them, I think the action cards are really neat, where he's making the catch or sliding into a base or making a double play. And then you have a card that has kind of a neat kind of story behind it. The captain closes the old Yankee Stadium, which is really kind of pertinent part of his career. And you have him when he played on the All-Stars, the American League All-Stars. And then you have a really crazy card that's obviously off the charts in terms of reality card, but it's a kind of a airbrushed, where he appears in an Astros uniform, which is certainly not true. You have the famous New York Times, departing farewell to baseball in Yankee Stadium. And then you have them kind of combined with other players and a card, like you have a shortstop that is a Hall of Famer from the Yankees, Phil Rizzuto and Jeter, as well as a Yankees card that includes the greats Lou Gehrig, as well as Thurman Munson and Derek Jeter. And there are other cards also, I think, that are quite interesting and may be valuable. And of course, the valuable cards with, as I've said every time in every presentation, that you've got the baseball's finest cards. They always seem to hold their value, as well as the Donruss Elite card. the Allen and Ginter cards, kind of a crazy card you see up there in the right corner. I don't know what the story behind this is, but it's certainly not a typical Derek Jeter dress. And you have the Kings of New York and Rodriguez and Derek Jeter. You have the chrome cards, and really kind of reproducing that 52 Topps brand. And you have the little postcard that comes with every player who makes the Hall of Fame, and usually people get these autographed. You have the studio, which is always popular in terms of a kind of a different photo, as well as Diamond Kings. And then I think probably the two most cleverest cards that's out there is this kind of male of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, and Derek Jeter. So all the kind of legends of the Yankees. And then here's another card. It's more of a drawing of it, but kind of a neat picture in terms of all the greats of the Yankees. And as everything that happens in baseball cards is you're going to have errors. And so, I mean, there's too many to spend the whole time going over all the Derek Jeter era cards. So I picked a few that I think are classic. Up in the top, you see, which is kind of interesting. And you look at the arrows, you'll see in the left, you'll see a lady there, and that's the original card. But in the era card, they kind of airbrushed and replaced the lady with President Bush. And as you see in the dugout, there's a new character, and that's Mickey Mouse. So this is really when he wasn't there, but it's kind of the card came out that way, and it's corrected and whatever, but kind of an interesting era. Then we have a kind of a superfluous era on this Fleer 95 card, and this is on the back. And if you kind of get up close to the arrow, you'll see that one has the Major League logo and copyrights, and the other one that's missing, so that's an era. On the left-hand corner, you'll see the draft pick Stadium Club, and you'll see, you look at Derek Jeter's name, it's spelled Jeter. There's no two T's, so that's an era. The next card over, it's obvious what the era is here. It's missing both the logo in the left-hand corner as well as the name at the bottom. We already mentioned the retro card of Derek Jeter on the 1960 set, where the icon is the Red Sox instead of the Yankees. So era cards are available and sometimes more valuable if people are interested, and they might be in more short supply. So as we move, and if you listen to the YouTube on Frank Thomas, and we're kind of showing that this glutton of cards is now moving away from as many cards made, but there's certainly a bigger selection. So you have more and more cards that will kind of ask for a greater return because they are in limited supply. And most of those cards in limited supply are the autograph cards. So you can see all of these cards, and we talk about the most valuable as we finish this talk. You'll see that most of the cards that are the most valuable are the ones that have signatures. But not only the ones that have signatures, but also you include relics. So you have a relic and a signature together, and then it's going to demand more, especially if it's in short supply. And then they're starting to put several players on one card. So this is a pretty amazing card that you see in the center, where you have Albert Pujols, David Ortiz, Derek Jeter, and Ken Griffey all signing it, as well as having relics contained in it. So, but these cards are just luck of the draw, and if you have them, they could be worth money if there's someone there who's willing to spend it and put it in their collection. So beyond the cards that have the autographs, you have the relics. So whether it's a bat, a jersey, swatches, gloves, coins, there's a whole host of these that I could basically just put and go over and over, and they speak for themselves. And there are a few of them. And again, they're kind of starting to combine both the ink, meaning the signature, and also they're including several players at one time, as well as coins and other kind of pieces of memorabilia, whether it's bat or the dirt or the hat or the swatches, whatever. So again, these call for higher price and are more valuable. And as we mentioned with Frank Thomas, they're in that card collection. If you're going to collect the cards of the particular player, then there is a host of cards that come with the starting lineups that should be included in the collection. And this we see both before with Frank Thomas as well as for Derek Jeter with the starting lineup. And you also have magazine cards. But as we're getting out of this junk wax era, you're seeing there's fewer and fewer magazines that are kind of promoting or talking about the cost of cards and so forth. They're kind of getting diminished. And so is the case that there's fewer magazines that basically people are purchasing that will contain cards. So the majority of these, as you'll see in this list, came out of Sports Illustrated for kids. So kids would collect the magazines and then have the various cards and add to the Derek Jeter collection. at the time. And as with Frank Thomas, and as will always be ad infinitum, there will be commercial cards. In other words, companies that basically either work with the card companies or make their own cards. And it's kind of nice to have them in your collection because they're kind of different and not sold in all parts of the country, and therefore it makes them unique and rare. So you have the national card of Derek Jeter and the retro 1987 style. You have, as we saw with Frank Thomas, a dog food card put out by Ajax Dog Food. You have the Oreo cookies card of Fleer. You have the Toys R Us, which seems to be something that is consistent for a lot of the great players. You even have a card game called Uno, where the cards have designs that include the star athletes. Hallmark Cards has a card of Derek Jeter. Holiday Inn has a card of you. Turn 2 Foundation. Down below you see the classic McDonald's, and then you have a Merrick Mint for quarters, and the cereal cards, the Wheaties on the box of Wheaties, on the box of Frosted Flakes. He has a card with him with the Frosted Flakes, and the other card, although it's on the back, but it's basically with him with the 4 rings, because this is before 2010 where he won his 5th of the World Series. This is a hostess card. So a lot of interesting cards to collect that are kind of not mainstream. And as I've mentioned before, when we're talking about rookies, yes, it's they usually are the most valuable card of the base set. I mean, regardless of the signatures and the relics and the chrome and the refractors. But a lot of times it can be valuable to have the last card. It's always complicated nowadays because like I say, Jeter will have cards that are current today, even though he stopped playing in 2015. But the classic cards for Jeter was kind of his tour of his final play, and the big day was when he had his final game at Yankee Stadium. So there's a whole series of cards that were made for that, as you can see in this photo. His leaving the game, his last hit at Yankee Stadium, and as we showed you before, the Sports Illustrated ending of his career at Yankee Stadium and farewell. So interesting cards, and again, they'll hold because they are the last cards of Derek Jeter. So we've kind of given you all that background in terms of all the different cards, and I haven't even touched the surface probably on most of the cards out there, but the interesting ones, the ones that kind of possibly hold value. And now we'll kind of look at what were the highest selling Derek Jeter cards of all time. And this isn't something that I put together, but people who basically spend time looking into this, and it kind of parallels what I've talked to you that you would think would be the more valuable cards. And the kind of people who went through and decided this are these are the references here on the internet. But you'll see some of those rookie cards I mentioned in the last talk, especially that iconic SP Upper Deck 93 Jeter card, as well as the Topps draft pick card, and below the Upper Deck draft pick, some of the Bowman chromes and so forth that are spread throughout, and then the Upper Deck rookie card. And some of them are more, and sometimes they ebb and flow. So you'll see other cards appear on this list that people are just interested in, and the price goes up. But the majority of all these cards that are of value are going to be either the autograph, the relic, or the combination of the autograph and relic, or having several players on one card, as you can kind of look through this list. And so to make it easy, if you're interested either and you have these cards and want to sell them, and you're looking at, do I have one of the cards that's the most valuable? Or if you wanted to purchase it as an investment, because probably over time, several of these will be of greater value given 5, 10, 20 years. So that's the highest selling Derek Jeter cards of all times. But then you have other list, and kind of more updated, because this list comes out of 2019, and it was kind of recorded on what cards on eBay sold the best. And these are the 25 most expensive cards, and you can see the reference below. And some of the cards that we talked about, the rookies and so forth, the starting lineup, and the gold front row, as well as the Upper Deck and so forth. You can see those, as well as kind of interesting cards that are autographed, and again, the triple thread cards and the relics together, and so forth. And this continues on, as you can see, kind of more of the same. But these are the cards that many of them selling well over $2,000 at a given time. And of course, always remember that the card value is so dependent on what these professional graders give it. So you might have have one of these cards, but it's below an 8, don't even get close to how much they're going for in terms of the higher price. But all valuable cards, and none of them really, except for 3 or 4 of the rookies and the pre-rookies that I've talked about in the past, really come from the base sets. So to, again, make your work a little easier, there's the not only the year, but also the maker of the card and the number of the card and description of those cards. So those are available if it's helpful to you. We also have to take into consideration that there's a new thing going around called the 2020 Topps Project. This is a project by Topps that combines iconic baseball cards and elite groups of modern honors. So each there's 20 players and 20 cards, and there's 400 cards total. But there are more cards than 20 cards for the players, as you'll even see in this kind of small kind of demonstration of what those cards look like. Most of them are basically designed according to an iconic card, like the 93 Topps draft pick, and you can see a lot of them simulate that with this kind of artist rendering of them. But other cards are somewhat different throughout the whole series, and there's lots of them, and yet their appeal may be that they're collectible. Some of them may be picturesque, some of them are kind of weird, but basically weird is good if you're kind of collecting sometimes. So we end with kind of going through this Derek Jeter as we began, and his nicknames were Captain Clutch and Mr. November, and he is more than renowned and a legend and all the accolades you can give him because he was drafted in 1992, number 6 draft pick out of high school. He debuted in the major leagues at the age of 20 and was Rookie of the Year in 1996. He never won the Major League Baseball Most Valuable Player, but did win the Most Valuable Player for the All-Star Game and the World Series in 1996. He was a Hall of Fame first ballot, one short of unanimous. He has been in 5 World Series championships, 14 All-Star games, 5 Golden Gloves, 5 Silver Sluggers, 1,000 plus runs scored, which he's the fourth player that's accomplished that in all Major League history. Is 6 in hits at 3,465, a great accomplishment, and had 1,000 multi-hit games, in which he ranks 4th in the number of games he's had multi-hits. Plus, like I say, he's had over 500 doubles and other things in terms, you can look at the right where it talks about him winning not only the Hank Aaron Award, but also the Joe DiMaggio Award, the Babe Ruth Award, the Roberto Clemente, and so forth. And as a career ending, he had a career ending batting average of 310, had 1,322 RBIs, 260 home runs, 358 stolen bases, on base percentage 377, 1,923 runs scored, and a 4.40 slugging percentage. So bringing lots of great accolades, no hesitation in terms of getting him, as I say, first ballot, almost unanimous, into the Hall of Fame. So why Mr. Clutch, Mr. November? Well, like I say, he was in 5 World Series, 96, 98, 99, 2000, as well as 2009. He won for that. He won the Babe Ruth Award, which is given for the athlete with the best performance postseason. So he got that award. And you can see it shows a picture here where he's demonstrating the 4 rings. Well, those 4 rings is because this card was actually produced in before 2000, actually 2001. So he did win a 5th ring. And he was the 2000 All-Star Game MVP. You can see where his hits postseason actually compared to Lou Gehrig, and well as a kind of another card where it's kind of giving him credit for hitting a home run leadoff in one of the World Series games. So a real clutch player and big on hits and big on average. And then you talk about success, but in his success after baseball, there's been numerous books that have been either written by him or written about him. And you kind of can see all those cards here. And then he also has written books. He's written 9 books for middle school kids that kind of talk about not just, the skills of baseball, but also character that kind of represented who Derek Jeter was. And he's even written books about traveling in New York and being a success. And other people wrote books about the Derek Jeter Yankee Kid. And then post baseball. And during baseball, he appeared in many national ad campaigns. So the rich get richer, so to speak, and they should, because they kind of are representing things that people want to be like, or celebrities and so forth. So he's advertised for Gatorade, G2, Nike, XM Satellite Radio, Gillette, even Skippy Peanut Butter, Ford cars, Subway, not MasterCard, but Visa Discover card, as well as Florsheim shoes. So done a lot, even more than this, of companies I've never heard of, but this is his popularity, and kind of probably acquires a lot from doing those commercials. And finally, he was known for his professionalism in an era of scandal. So in this day and age where we have these great athletes making millions of dollars, sometimes it's discouraging because their character is much to be questioned. And especially what happened with the steroids and the performance enhancing drugs, which he was free from. So we look at the things that he's won. Like I say, that he won the Lou Gehrig Award for best exhibits the character and integrity of Lou Gehrig. He won the Roberto Clemente Award, which is commitment to community and understanding the value of helping others. He won the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year Award. He is known for his service to the community. He's one of the top executives. A card was made for that as an executive. He has a family with 3 daughters, and he also was the CEO of the Marlins, which he just stepped down from, but with a comment that the vision for the future of the franchise is different than the one I signed on to. And he gets not just all these accolades and awards, but his net worth is over $200 million. So if you are interested in learning additional information about the baseball card industry, the history of baseball cards, profiting and investing in baseball cards, or ideas to bring the fun back to collecting, be sure to follow us below. Feel free to view our library of YouTube videos, and please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. Also, check out our eBay store, where we have available for sale many of the cards shown in this video.